episode of Confabulation. My name's Jill Jackson. I'll be the monitor this evening. We are filming outside of our sister's house in Tacoma, Washington. And I'd like to introduce my panel. Well, there's just two, Joy and Gabe. And I'd like to apologize for us not filming for a while. We've just been extremely busy, but we're glad to be back. So today we're going to be discussing governmental programs, medical programs, food stamp programs, and cash benefit programs. We're in Washington State, so most of our information will be about how, what we see and what we're thinking about living in Washington State. So I'm gonna let Gabe open up.
Okay, so I was just kind of thinking, we were just talking about, what kind of brought up this discussion was Trump cutting food stamps. So we're just kind of wondering, do you think that's a good thing for people, or what kind of did you see with that?
So I wasn't familiar with all the stipulations in it, but so I started reading. So it seems like they said 700,000 people, but they re-crunched the numbers, and it looks more like 650 something, which, okay, 50,000 less. But then I read that they were not including people who were on disability, but there's tons of people. It takes forever to get onto disability and apply for it and wait for their answer. So you have all these people that aren't actually on disability, but they've applied for it and they're probably disabled and cannot work. So that leaves them out. And then you have to be able-bodied, and it said something about the age group from 35 to 50. If you are single, I know 50 and over, you can still get food stamps, because then you're kind of crossing the line into senior citizen if you need that help. But it's still going to affect a lot of people, and there's another part to it coming that's going to affect free school lunches, the free school lunch program at grade schools, which even if the family is still getting actual SNAP benefits, once the child goes to school, which helps the family out, they won't get that free lunch. So now that they're affected too.
I think that's really important to keep, is for school kids being able to eat.
Yeah. I think that thing should have been kept. I really don't think that school kids should be paying for lunch anyway, because you have to look at where a lot of these kids live. Even if they do live in a more wealthy environment, there are still people who are impoverished who can't afford it, to feed their kids lunch or send them with a lunch. Yeah. So I think that they shouldn't be paying for school food anyway. That's what tax dollars should be going to.
And well, also a lot of these kids, that's the only meal they get.
Exactly.
During the day is eating lunch at school. I'm more concerned with, and you guys chime in, I'm more concerned with people who are on benefits and they are just taking advantage of the system.
And I was reading through it, and it addresses the people who are not able to work. They understand that, and they also address economies that do not have job openings. They provided those states with waivers, but it's going to be much more harder to obtain those waivers.
Right.
But I do think that people who are able-bodied should be working, because government assistance is what it is. It's assistance, but just from working here, I've seen lots of people taking advantage of it. I've seen so many people who are able-bodied and can work, but they make excuses as to why they cannot work. And on top of that, all of that money could be going towards feeding kids at school who actually need this. And there's people who actually cannot work, and there's people who are choosing just not to work. And especially in Washington State, I'm sorry, but there's way too many job opportunities. We have Amazon, even though they are borderline slavery, but they do pay you every Friday. Like, and they pay you at a good rate. Like, I don't personally like work. I worked at Amazon. I didn't like it at all. But they always have job openings. And they all, like, you don't even have to have a resume to apply.
Yeah.
So I think that there's just way too many job opportunities now that people aren't taking advantage of. There's way too many people who want handouts.
Well, what about the people with kids who maybe want to work but they can't
Why can't they work?
take care of their kids?
There's daycare.
As long as
That's what daycare is for.
If you ever worked at the DSH's office, as long as you're following their rules and regulations as to receiving TANF, you can actually go into the Work First program and get free daycare.
So is that government assistance? Do you think that government assistance would be more important than food stamps?
I think so.
The daycare?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
so.
if you invest in more in the support of a family, of parents going out and working, because let's be honest, like Joy said, I mean, how many people have we seen come through our doors over and over and over again, and it's like, you are not doing anything and you could be doing something.
I don't think that a lot of people are actually even aware that the government can provide daycare.
No, they are. They are.
No,
like,
I don't know. When I mention to clients that have been through DSHs, and I tell them, oh, you can get childcare when you want to work
Yeah.
if you're at this certain income level, and they're like, oh, really? I had no idea you could do that.
They're lying because the first thing that a lot
Could
of
be lying. They just don't want to work.
Exactly. The
It's
first
another
thing
excuse.
that social workers do is they're like, join the Work First program. Then they'll be like, well, no one can watch my kids, and they usually inform them that they do provide child care. I understand that child care is a huge need, and there aren't a lot of people like actually, and it takes a while for you to find child care, but you can find it.
Is it good child care?
It's listen, you're working, you cannot be asking for private school type childcare when you're on government assistance.
I mean, it is what it is. And my other thing is that when you are on government assistance, dang, get off of it.
That's the point.
Like, the whole point should be to get off of it. Now, might you have barriers to get off of it? And then that's where maybe a lot of similar agencies like ours or social service agencies come into play. Like, we can help you with those barriers maybe.
But at the same time, even when we address these barriers, a lot of people do not want to still they'll be like, oh, can you help me with this? After they've gotten free housing for a year and you still haven't found a job. Like, there was a client who had free housing, her kids were going to childcare, and I'm like, what are you doing when your kids are going to childcare? And she's like, I just go home. And then there's some parents whose kids are in school. You could drop your kids off to school and go to work and then be in and find a job that gives you time to go pick your kids
and then
up.
you can have then there's plenty of after school daycare and programs. I hate to sound like the right-wing Republican,
because I'm not right-winged at all.
Me neither, but I've seen too much of the taking advantage of the system. And then when I have to work my ass off to pay taxes, I'm pissed. Because now I'm supporting your laziness. Like, you just want to lay there all day because you can, because you can find whatever loopholes in a government program or DSHS to allow you to just do nothing and collect food stamps and benefits. Do you want to pause?
Yeah, I can pause. Just go ahead.
Just edit it
Yeah.
out. Oh, okay.
Like, I'm pretty much against Trump's administration, and I think that there are a few tweaks that they need to do. Like, I think that the waiver should be a lot more accessible to social workers and to the states that are getting those waivers, but they should not be as accessible, and they should make sure that their social workers and their states are not just handing them out freely. Like it should be a long process for you to go. It shouldn't be. I'm not gonna say that long but I just think it should be like a more detrimental.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, it looks like these waivers are going to be harder to get, though.
Exactly.
So-
And I don't think it should be
Yeah.
harder to get for states. I just think that citizens should be like, okay, prove to us that you went to a job interview. Prove to us how many applications you've been doing a week. Like, there should just be proof. It shouldn't be,
But I think
I can't
that,
find a job.
okay, I've been on welfare. I've been on TANF. I've been on food stamps. I've been in those programs.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was a long time ago, but they made me prove I was job hunting. I just decided this is some bull. I need to get an education so I don't have to deal with this anymore.
Exactly.
So I just went back to school. But they used to make you document this stuff, like where did you go, or they would send you places like, look, here's a job that fits your whatever. I mean, workforce was not the most friendly.
It's not.
It's
And
horrible. Actually,
I don't
Workforce.
like Workforce
Actually,
at all.
Workforce is so bad. Is it Workforce now?
I think it's work
Whatever it is,
yeah.
is so horrible, and the people who run it are just so they make you feel like crap. And I just said, screw it. I don't need your stuff anymore. I'm just go back to school.
But at the same time,
Not everybody.
Yeah, and
Right.
Workforce, actually, you have the option of getting a job or Workforce paying for school. So
Right.
you have those two options readily.
Well, they don't, or do they pay for, because when I was in Work First or Workforce or whatever it is, they only paid for certain programs, and they didn't pay, like I wanted to get my bachelor's degree and then go on to, get my master's degree. They weren't going to pay for that. They wanted to pay for a nursing program or a this program or a that program.
No, they pay for schools now. They'll pay
okay.
for books. They pay for like I'm gonna say that DSHS, yes, they're not perfect because they're government based and operated, but
Yeah.
they do try to address each and every single barrier that someone could be going through. They even pay for you to fix your car now. Like if you're like, my car's a barrier for me to not be able to get to work, they'll pay for that. So it's just like even social workers, when I was at the DSHS office, will come up to me and they're like, yeah, I tried to address this and this whenever they kept bringing up a barrier, but with each and every single barrier I was addressing, there came an excuse with it.
Well, we've seen that here. Excuse after excuse after excuse after, oh, I can't do it because of this. Oh, I can't do it 'cause... And I'm just thinking to myself, you have kids. You're going to have to pay your rent.
Exactly.
Keep a roof over your head some kind of way. At some point, these programs that you keep accessing are going to fail you and aren't going to be, you're not going to be able to access them anymore.
Can I say this? They're failing you now.
Now, yeah.
Like, how are you? You live in the state of Washington. Rent is like $1,000 and up, and the most I've ever heard a client receive TANF, like the most money they give out to TANF is $800. So imagine you're paying rent, and then you're paying electric, and unless you have housing.
Yeah.
But even the housing programs go down. Like you're only supposed to stay in them for I don't know how long.
Unless it's Section 8, which that's a whole nother conversation
exactly.
to have. We don't even have time on this show to talk about that one.
Yeah.
But people being on Section 8 for 20, 30 years.
It's not, to me, it's not fair. There's so many people who are refugees that are coming in who do not know the state well enough, who need that assistance, and majority of the time, they end up getting off of Section 8. It's a lot of the people who grew up on Section 8, who grew up on food stamps, who grew up on TANF, that go right back into the system after they leave their parents' house.
You also just brought something up. You said refugees. Do you think we should be giving government assistance to people who immigrate here?
I think so. You don't?
They're not U.S. citizens if they come here and they get government assistance and we're paying for it. People with
But
our
at the
tax
same-
dollars
but
and
at
they're
the
coming
same
from other
time-
places.
But we're paying for people who have lived here, who know how to access resources, who know about the system, who know how to get a job here, versus someone who's just coming to America, fleeing with nothing that they have but the clothes on their back. they shouldn't access government assistance.
Is that still our responsibility though?
I think it's our responsibility. If you're able to accept the refugees, you need to be able to take care of them as well.
Which probably why Trump is saying we aren't going to take them in anymore.
So I feel like we're having problems with
Basically,
our,
I mean, not all
I don't know,
of
I
them,
just
but-
think we're having enough problems with our own country and our own people
And
that I think it's a little difficult to accept more and more people coming in. And I understand that they're fleeing, definitely a
Yeah.
really difficult situation.
Yeah, that's the whole thing on a humane level. I want to say yes, but
Mhm.
on a realistic level, economically, I want to say no because we can't sustain that.
Yeah.
But if we look at refugees versus American citizens, who's actually putting in a lot more work when they come into the United States? Who actually gets off of TANF and off of government assistance faster? Americans or
I don't know the statistics on
I
that.
don't either, but
couldn't
I'll
say.
tell you this, I've seen a lot of immigrants come here and do well. And I've seen a lot of immigrants come here and do really bad. And it just and the other thing is too is that if you can't, like Joy said, okay, if you come here, that's an assistance. And if you can work it, or you have other family members here to support you too that are already here, and they can help too, and you're only on it for a little bit of time, I don't have a problem with that, because then you become a productive, tax-paying member of society. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know the statistics, I don't know the numbers, so I can't make the statement that more immigrants come here and get on and off of benefits than actual citizens. I don't know. But I do know, just from an economic standpoint, we're not going to be able to do that.
And I understand it from an economic standpoint, but I'm always like, we're on a humane standpoint.
Right.
But like, I'm an immigrant. My mom, I don't think we've ever been on food stamps in the 22 years that we've been here. But once again, when we came here, we had a family that put aside funding to make sure that they were able to take care
that's
of
what
us
I'm
and
saying.
sustain
So
us.
that to me is extremely doable, because you guys had saved your money. You knew what you were going to do. You had family support here.
Yeah. And it's a different story for a lot of other immigrants who come here who don't have family.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really am for more people coming to the United States, because I think that
I am too, especially people of color, especially people from African diaspora, especially people who are fleeing some war-torn countries like Syria, like how we had Syrians come in and Trump cut that off.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
And look
that
at
the
Mexico, they're
reality.
our neighbors, and we won't even let them in, and all they've ever had is war-torn country. Like it's crazy over there, but they won't let them in because they think that they just sit on government assistance, which they don't. Like
No, they work. They work really hard. I'm just saying that from an economic standpoint, it is coming to a point where we're not going to be able to afford to assist people in that manner. We're just not going to be able to afford to.
And that's going to be across the board, Americans, immigrants, everybody. And that's what people don't understand, is that this government assistance will not last forever.
Exactly. So it's not. So, I know we started out talking about the food stamp thing.
Yeah.
But it actually affects all government assistance. It's just not. It's not gonna, unless we start looking at budgets and taking money from somewhere to put it somewhere else where it can be more useful.
But I think that government assistance, just like you were saying, it shouldn't be something that we hand out. It needs to be more supportive. Because a lot of people, even when they go through DSHS, they're assigned to go to certain job posts. And I'm going to say this, they're they're crappy jobs. We should be
Yeah.
pushing out more CNAs and then for like getting them into nursing school,
Or
pushing out
more
more actual
technological
type
things,
field.
science.
I don't think that we should
Yeah.
be pushing Goodwill or McDonald's,
I
because at
know.
the same time that's just keeping them on government assistance. You want to give them jobs that are actually going to help them get on their feet, and they're not doing that
Yeah.
in the workforce.
So yeah, the other thing, so that's the argument for UBI, universal
Oh,
basic
yeah, I was
income.
just gonna say, tell us.
So getting like $1,000, everybody, each adult gets $1,000 a month just as a handout, no matter what income bracket you're in. You could be rich, making $100,000 a year, and you still get that $1,000. But the argument was that you get that $1,000 and then you're not really required to work those like crappy jobs because you can sustain yourself. So like a lot of people will not want to take that like internship in order to move up because they can't pay rent with that unpaid internship. So being able to go get that, you know, maybe low paying job in a company where you have the potential to move up, you're still able to sustain yourself with that $1,000 and then also move up at the same time by having that job and potential to make
per
more
month,
money.
$1,000 as a supplement.
I like it, but $1,000 per month, like
But as a supplement. not-
as a supplement.
Yeah.
Imagine if 4 people are living in a house and they're getting $1,000 a month. Adults. Like, I lived in my mom's house, my brother lived there, my mom lived there, like, and then her husband. That's $4,000 in one house.
So what
but
are you
it's
saying? Is
but
that
then
a,
it's 3, 4, 5, 4 people. Well, for 4 people, $4,000 isn't that much money.
It's not that much money, but at the same time,
It
how
could
many
pay.
different, like,
It could definitely pay some rent.
it could definitely pay
and
rent
utilities.
and utilities off, yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, where's this money coming from? If every single, let's just say every single house is getting $4,000.
No,
That's
is it every single person?
It's every single person.
adult person?
Yeah.
Adult,
adult
18
person.
and over.
18
So,
and
I'm
over.
not sure the age, but yeah.
Yeah, it's 18 and over.
But so Andrew Yang, he's the presidential candidate, said the money comes from taxes on like products. So like Facebook, Google, so Amazon will get like a value added tax. So that'll be an extra 10% added to whatever they're selling, and that's going.
So it would be
universal
going
basic.
towards businesses and stuff that would be
Yeah,
paying
so
those
not
taxes?
groceries or like clothes or like things you need,
Yeah.
but more so like products.
Okay. Well, I mean, we are buying lots of Amazon, and Amazon can't afford
That also means that you're gonna have to pay more
More
for
on
those products
Amazon.
probably.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind paying more for an Amazon product. I mean, you usually get things that you don't need anyway, so if you're about to buy them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
mean,
mind that. But my biggest reason I'm against this is, once again, there are people here who are just going to take advantage of it. But then that would be the argument across the board for every little thing that we do that's government
I think it should be
assistance-based.
something like you have to be working to
I think
Receive it.
to
I
receive
think
it.
Yeah.
so. I think so too.
you have to be working to
Because
receive
once
it.
again,
or
it's supposed to be supplemental.
right,
Or in school.
or in school, or if you're disabled and you can't work, or maybe because this disability thing is killing me, because there's so many disabled people out there that apply for disability, and it takes sometimes a year or something to find out if you can get your disability, and then you're really disabled.
Exactly.
So you can't take advantage of all these different programs with your disability. You're just sitting there suffering, and now, they're gonna take the food stamps away from you because you're not actually technically
Disabled until you're on
disabled,
disability.
right?
Yeah.
And so I guess, but I mean, what can you do about that? I guess nothing.
I mean, they could probably put more funding towards the They should take away funding from able-bodied people and put it more towards those that are disabled. Like, you literally are born with a disability, or a disability can happen to you, and that's something that's out of your control. Like, if you can't work due to a disability, that's not something that you can control. And most people on disability, they get food stamps, and then if they still have haven't received their disability, they're on TANF, and majority of the time they use the food and the TANF to pay for like electric.
So why is that
rent.
our responsibility as
Because
able-bodied people?
No, I'm saying disabled people, people who are unable to work.
No, but he's asking, you said you should take money away from able-bodied people.
Yeah, so
No, not us. I'm talking about like the amount of money that goes into DSHS towards able-bodied people.
Oh,
so put a budget more towards
disability than to DSHS.
Because I feel like those people have a legitimate reason not to.
Let's be legitimate. These are things that they can't control. Like, no.
But then you have people that take extreme advantage of the disability program
like saying
too.
You have back pain. That's pretty ambiguous.
There's a whole bunch of people that like. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of reasons, but that you might be a little disabled, but you're just living off of disability, or you're not really disabled at all. You're just, wherever there's a government supplemental program, people take advantage of it.
Well, yeah.
There's ways to take advantage
of it. Well, yeah, there's always ways, but then also there's lots of people who do live on disability and they want to work and they want to be more able-bodied and they want to be treated like a citizen. Like there was, when I was working at this like home carry type place, a group home, there's a kid and he was autistic and he wanted to work. But once again, all of his money to pay for everything came from disability. And he was just working at like Goodwill or something. It's just something he liked to do. But then the people on disability found out that he was working. And they're like, because you're working, you either need to choose to work or to receive disability. And obviously he's working at a Goodwill job that's not about to pay off his stuff. So you have to quit working just in order to receive disability. And I think that's one thing that the government really hasn't taken into consideration is these people at the end of the day are humans too, and they want to be treated as such. And we can't just keep them up in a house. They also need to have social networking and be able to be a part of a working environment without being threatened to take away their disability just because they're making $400 a month. Like, no.
Yeah. I like the UBI. Is that what it is? UBI.
Yeah.
I like it, but there's just lots of...
Explain for our viewers exactly what UBI stands for and give a brief, well, you kind of gave a brief.
Yeah, universal basically just getting $1,000 every month to cover your expenses, and that's supplemental, so you can either choose to keep receiving food stamps or TANF, but you can't have both.
Yeah.
So you're just taking that $1,000 a month, or if maybe your other assistance is a lot larger, then you'll take that. So you have a choice.
Yeah. But it said something you were telling me this afternoon about there was some kind of stipulation where you can't do something. I can't remember what you said.
I don't know. The only problem thing that I see is people just taking advantage of it. Just maybe spending their money, maybe buying drugs. Like
it's like on his website, the presidential person was like, the data doesn't show this because someone was like, well, people spend their money on dumb things like drugs and alcohol. The data doesn't show this. In many of the studies where cash is given to the poor, there has been no increase in drug and alcohol use. In fact, many people use it to try and reduce their alcohol consumptions or substance abuse. In Alaska, for example, people regularly put the petroleum dividend they receive from the state in accounts for their children's education.
And obviously that's on his website, so I know that's for sure biased to make it look good because that's his biggest talking point for his whole campaign.
Exactly.
And I don't know how accurate that is. You can cite certain studies, but I'm sure there's plenty of other studies where...
And you can manipulate certain statistical observations. I don't know. I like the UBI though. I think it would help me out.
It would help me out.
For sure. I like that. Yeah.
It would help me out.
An extra $1,000 a month. Yeah.
That would help a lot.
Yeah.
But I just think that there should be like stronger regulated stipulations to it. It shouldn't just be because you're 18.
you get $1,000.
I just don't think.
I just don't know how you control.
And I hate to
What
say
people
this,
buy.
but an 18-year-old and $1,000.
Okay.
What you should be like 25. It should be at least
Yeah.
25. You should be somewhere like a grown adult.
I don't think so. I think 18 is a good age because this
But
is
when
what-
you were 18,
when I was 18, I was in college.
Yeah,
and I
but
was,
Joy,
yeah.
come on.
I wasn't struggling,
you
but
would
at
be
the
buying bottles.
I would not be buying bottles. I wasn't even doing
Oh,
all
yeah.
that at 18.
No,
You're
my
going- you're going out to the
point
bar.
is, and as we all
But
know,
at the same,
well, I was just gonna say, we all know this. The human brain does not develop until 24,
Mhm.
25, 20 something,
but
around 25. And giving an 18-year-old $1,000 a month, the 18-year-old probably is most likely still living at home. So now, what incentive do you have to go out and get a job? You're getting $1,000 a month.
true.
You don't understand financing, which is is actually a nationwide problem in our school systems.
They should
Not
take a
teaching
financial
people
literacy
how to
class, yeah.
financially navigate their lives, but nonetheless, we don't have it. So now you don't know how to do anything with money. You don't know how to save it. You don't know how to, responsibly spend it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand the value. You don't completely understand the value of it. Why? Because you're sitting in your parents' house and they're paying for everything for the most part. So I'm not for giving no
I
18-year-old
think-
$1,000.
Or
I
my
think
parents
that's a
is
way. That's
sending
gonna
them away.
waste.
Send me the money.
And here's the other thing: if you cut down the age, the age group, right? Then think about it. There's not as many $1,000 you have to pay out. So then there's not as much taxes you have to collect to do it, which lowers that percentage of what they said they were going to tax anyway.
I am gonna still disagree with you. I understand everything that you're saying about financial literacy, but that could be another stipulation. Like if you're 18 and you're receiving this, you have to take a financial literacy class, and then after that, you just choose to do what you choose to do with it. But there's lots of people, like I went out of state when I went to college. That would have helped a lot.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to books and stuff. A lot of kids go to
Okay,
school.
then
Well,
make the
that's also the
stipulation
paying
you have to
problem.
be either working or in college if you're 18. Because here's my other point about an 18-year-old getting $1,000. That basically, again, I'm working and paying taxes into that system. You haven't been working and paying taxes into that system. So
But-
you're getting the $1,000, right? You're getting $1,000 just like a 35, 40-year-old
But it's
person.
not affecting, according to his plan, it's not going to be affecting your taxes. It's only
Oh,
going
it's going to affect me because now I have to pay more for a product or service.
true.
So
Sure.
now that money has to come from somewhere, and that's where it's coming from. Now I gotta pay more for that product or service. Hey, 18-year-old, have you been paying for any products or services? No, you haven't. Your parents have. So you haven't paid into the system in order for you to benefit from it. That's why I'm saying, okay, if you're 18, then you either be responsible like you were and be in school, or have a job. If you're just hanging around your
Well,
parents' house,
I'm
you
not saying,
shouldn't be getting
I'm
$1,000.
not saying that they should receive it just to receive it. I think that there should be lots
Yeah.
of standards and protocols before you receive
Yeah.
this type
Then
of
I
money.
agree.
But I do believe that 18-year-olds should be added into the package.
Yeah.
Because there are 18-year-olds, as soon as they turn 18, they get kicked out of their house.
That-
as soon as they turn 18.
That's true. That's true.
And but even with $1,000 in Washington, that's not getting you
you
nowhere.
ain't even
You
get,
gotta get
that
You're
ain't
not
even-
even getting a house.
Yeah, you're not
Like,
getting an apartment with that.
Exactly.
You can't even get a 200 square foot apartment in Seattle for that.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah,
just
but no,
like,
if you're doing something, if you're being productive and responsible, like going to school or you have a job, yes. But if you're just sitting around your parents' house at 18 still, you don't need $1,000.
you don't.
You should probably get your ass out and work for it.
Truly understandable.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
That creates a good work ethic too.
it does. It
But I'm
really
sure
does.
if something happens where that happens for us,
Mhm.
there will be those stipulations around that.
Mhm.
Because people aren't just going to be like, oh, no. If I had an 18-year-old at home, that was, just graduated high school. Like, what do I do? Where do I go? I don't know. Do I want to work or go to school or whatever? Yeah, until you figure that out and you're just sitting over here. If I sat in my house working my ass off and I watched him him or her get $1,000, I'd be like, you need to hand that over now.
I
you
know
ain't,
my mom
you
would
ain't
make me hand
contributed
it
enough
over.
now. Yeah, now you need to hand that over. You could have some chewing gum money, but that's about it for you. That's about it for you. You need to hand that over.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I understand, because lots of people were like, oh, we can use this to put away money towards college and stuff for our kids, but a lot of people are more playing catch up anyway,
Yeah.
and they're unable to put money towards their college fund. Like,
Well, that's also. Do you think? I guess directing the conversation. Do you think college should be free?
I think college should be free.
It's free damn near everywhere else in the
I'm sorry,
westernized
but
world,
I think it should be
except
free.
for here.
If it's something that's gonna further you in life, I don't understand why they're taking it away from, why people have to pay for it. If we made college free, imagine how many jobs we would create. People would be able to have access to a lot more jobs. We wouldn't need all of these welfare programs, but then once again, people are choosing just to not go to college. And I'm not saying college is for everybody, but you could go to a trade school. There's so many different alternatives to college,
Yeah.
I
but
think-
people choose to not do
I think
that.
jobs are kind of valuing work experience honestly more than college
but
nowadays.
still, well, yeah,
Entry level jobs, but to
Entry-level,
move up somewhere and
where you're not in it.
and further diversify your economy. Nah, you better. It's not okay. If I'm a high school graduate and I get an entry level job into, I don't know, say a social service agency. Then, and I don't have a bachelor's degree, where exactly am I going?
Exactly.
If I wanted to move up, there, where am I going? Because even in the social service industry, really, you can't do too much of anything without a bachelor's degree.
You can't.
And
Not
then-
even without an associate's to start.
Yeah, you can't.
Well,
What are
also,
you-
if college is free, will that lower the value of having a bachelor's degree? If
No,
everybody
it's
has a
never-
bachelor's degree?
Look at
No.
European nations. It's never. In fact, it is more valued there. We are the least educated country on
We
earth.
really are.
There are some dummies living here.
Beyond.
And the reason for that is a lot of it is because a lot of people either can't afford to, don't want the debt, and then it creates this atmosphere around education that it's not imperative to have. You have all these. It's never happened in westernized nations. That they value it even more. You have all these people. It's just a thing. Like, go over to England and France and Germany, and people are like, yeah, I gotta go to uni. Yeah, I gotta go to university. Yeah, I mean, it's just a thing. It's just, they already know, okay, I went to grade school and high school, now I gotta go to college. Just another thing they have to do. They don't even sit and damn near half the time think about it.
Exactly.
Because
it's just an ongoing story.
Basically, the most ignorant people I run across are people that do I need to go sit in a classroom to educate myself? No, it just gives you a format to do it and it organizes it for you. But basically, people in America are so ignorant, they don't have a basic understanding of how the world even works. And at the very least, go learn about that. Understand how the world works economically, socially,
in some type of capacity.
academically, and all that stuff. I mean, even if you don't have a major, at least go 2-3 years so you have an understanding of the world and the way it works, and where you're at in it.
I mean, the thing that I didn't like about college, honestly, was going to college and then having to take these classes that weren't anything to do with
exactly.
like I'm taking
Yeah.
the history of Asian landscape art.
But at the same time,
I'm learning about. I don't understand. I'm learning about culture and Asian art, but
Yeah.
this is. I guess when I'm paying money for it, I don't value it as much. But if I'm not having to pay for it, then that's okay. I'm taking this class, but I would much rather be taking classes that are actually useful, and I think the college
Yeah.
system
It's
is just a
messed up
big
on that.
money sucker.
Oh, I do too.
Exactly. That's
That's
why
why
they
it
make you
should
take
be-
the unnecessary
Yeah.
classes.
The bullshit, your
Yeah.
electives.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's why it should be free.
But at the same time, I do believe that electives are a necessity because if you're becoming a nurse and you're taking sociology or psychology, which are basic electives that everybody has to take, it also helps you further understand the scope of where your patient is coming from. If you take all of these quote unquote unnecessary classes, I think it further enhances your education. Because if you're just learning about one specific topic that you need to learn, then you're not able to
Yeah,
get
you
a
have to be
holistic
more
world
diversified
view,
and
yeah.
have a bigger view. Like, and that's what I'm saying about, like, you go somewhere and you talk to people and you're talking to them, you're thinking in your head, oh my God, you have no idea. You can't even have a conversation.
Exactly.
Like, you can't, like, I should put you over there with the kids because your level of understanding
is,
about the world you live in is so minuscule
yeah.
that you can't even come over here with the adults and have a conversation.
Exactly.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking
Like,
about.
I learned art and I know how to identify certain like art types now. Does that help me at all? But imagine if I don't know, I go to some type of job and I have to impress a client or something.
Or,
and now I know all of these things that I thought I wouldn't need.
right, if I just know the one that, if I have tunnel vision in my education and I just
Exactly.
know that one thing, then it's really not an education.
It's not.
Yeah, you have to be more diversified. Now, I get it if you're more well-rounded and your experiences have been more sophisticated. And then you feel like I want to do this and I'm sticking to that because I'm good everywhere else. I know, I can hold a conversation. I can go over here and have a conversation. I can go over there and have a conversation. I need to focus on this. I get that, but unfortunately in America, because America is so illiterate,
Very.
Americans are so illiterate that probably ain't a good
Okay,
idea.
so Americans are lazy and illiterate. What's the incentive for them to want to even go to college in the first place, even if it's free?
But the thing is, though, is that
And then especially
you
if
can't-
they're also getting $1,000 a month on top of that and free tuition, are they gonna go to school?
well, and
If the majority of the population we're talking about is being lazy and not wanting to work, how do we incentivize those people to want to change
but
their
at
lives?
we can incentivize them, and we look over here for our agency, for instance. We gave incentives for people. We were giving out $20 gas vouchers like every other week for you to be able to like come and do for you to come to a support group that's helping you out. And people would just show up every other week. We saw that, and then we took away the incentives, and now we have a more consistent amount of people coming without the incentives. So at the end of the day, it's either you want to better yourself or you do not. I'm not about to sit here and solve America's lazy problem. That's not my job.
I agree with Joy. I don't care about incentives. You
I
either
don't
do it
care.
or you don't.
Exactly.
You either want to, or you don't want to, and then let the years move on and see where that gets you.
Okay, so I want to, because this is going maybe a little off topic, so like the homeless people, are we still, they're lazy, some of them are lazy and honestly don't want to do anything, they want to stay homeless. Do we still help them out?
I believe that everyone should be given an opportunity.
Yeah.
And you choose what you want to do with that opportunity. I think that they are still human beings. They still deserve the same rights that I do. They still deserve the same resources I have access to. They still deserve an education like I have. But at the same time, if you do not want it, you do not want it. But I'm gonna give the plate of food out there. You could either take it or leave it. At the end of the day, it doesn't hurt me.
And then I can take people with severe mental health issues out of that. People who have quite a bit of trauma.
Exactly.
I am on the fence about drug addicts because you know what? There are this is again Washington State that has so much going on for if you even thought about getting clean, to go to so many programs, so much help out there, so much.
So
Well, that's the
many.
other thing is paying money for those programs. Like, we're paying money for all those programs.
But at the same
Yeah.
time, you have to think about addiction is a disease, as has been stated before, and there are some people who need guidance to get out of there, and I do not mind my tax dollars going to that. There are genetic predispositions whereby my grandfather was an alcoholic, so if I take one drop of liquor, I'm more likely predestined to be an alcoholic also. Genetic factors that you're not able to cope with or whatever, or you're not able to, like, if you do not know this about your family history and that happens to happen to you, and then you realize that once again you need this help, those programs should be out there. I don't think that those programs should be taken away at all.
But, and just to kind of circle back, we've all worked with and been around the homeless.
Population.
We
yes.
all have. And all of us sitting here know that there are those that are just like, you just choose to be homeless.
Exactly.
That's your choice.
Yeah.
You just choose to be homeless for whatever your reason is, and there's a multitude of them. And so for you, I'm kind of like,
At that point, there's nothing you could do. There's
no,
nothing
I'm like you said. I'm not forcing you to eat off the plate. I'm not giving incentives for you to eat off the plate. You just eat off the plate or you don't.
Because at the end of the day, like you were saying, how people would just take advantage of it, and how college would be, college wouldn't be as a priority if it is free. Like, people wouldn't really care about it as much. As at the same time, if we give out all of these incentives, these people won't care as much. Oh, come get clean so that I could give you a donut. They don't care. They just want the donut, then they'll go back and do the drugs. Like they don't care. Like, if we give incentives, the incentive in life should be, I want to do better. I want to be better. That's the incentive.
And the thing is, I guess, many years ago, if you didn't have that incentive for yourself, you could like go work at some little random place and just fall into something and stay there for years, or the world isn't like that anymore. You can't do that kind of stuff anymore like that. There's people out here that are 75 years old, that are retired, that are working at McDonald's because either they need supplemental income because their retirement and all their other benefits aren't enough to sustain them, or they're bored and they want something to do. Well, if I got a 75-year-old person that's able, that moves, that can do the job, I ain't hiring you. You ain't got no work ethic. And plus, then I don't have to pay insurance for this person over here. You get you might get benefits, or it's those kinds of things that you just. I'm just saying, this younger generation coming up now better get it together because it's the haves and the have-nots.
It really is.
And if you don't have any incentive to educate yourself in a skill set or just a basic education where you can kind of move and navigate throughout different workplaces and stuff where you have transferable skills. If you don't get that, you're just going to be a have-not.
Exactly.
And that's the bottom line.
And at
on
the end
that.
of that, that's by choice. Like, I understand, okay, right now we're talking about an unrealistic world where everyone has an equal opportunity, but realistically, people do not have the money, the funds, or whatever to go to college. But I've seen people who are like, I cannot go to college, I'm working for 2 years to get myself into college. Or they're making sure they study really hard in high school to be able to apply to scholarship, get loans, do whatever it takes in order to reach the finishing line.
Yeah.
Then there's those people who are like, my parents didn't save up a college fund for me, so I'm not going to school. Or there's so many different barriers. I've just seen so many people move past barriers. There's people who are like, I'm taking a year of college because I don't have any more money. I'm working this whole entire year and I'm going back to school.
Yeah.
There's,
Like, I didn't have any money when I went back to school. I was like, you know, my kids were gone. I was like, now I can focus on school. I borrowed a lot of money going to school, but I didn't give a damn. I knew I had a choice from working in a mediocre profession where as time went on, it was going to get more and more mediocre and it wouldn't be able to sustain me. And I didn't have any education to move up, you know, like the way I wanted to. So I had a choice. So I didn't give a damn about the money I owed. I just owe it. And then that's just it. And they're not, they'll, you know, the federal government will work with you on your, you know, on how much money you pay back.
Yeah.
I just owe the money. I'd rather owe the money and have my education.
And have a better life.
And have a better life. And just owe the money than still be sitting in that mediocre position with no way to go anywhere because I didn't have, you know, my bachelor's degree or my master's degree to do that.
Exactly.
It's just like how I got here. When I was sitting up at the state working in children's administration and foster care system, when the minute I got tired of it, I was like, you know what? You don't have to stay here. You actually do have your bachelor's degree and a master's degree. You don't have to stay here. And so that's when I was like, peace, I'm gone. Why? Because I had that option.
Exactly. When you're more educated, you have
more options. You have more choices.
Exactly. People can't hold you back when you know your worth, when you know yourself.
Yeah, and they can't take your education away from you either.
Can't.
I have my degrees. You can't take that away from me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I don't even know what subject we're on at this.
I know.
Like,
Free
it's just
tuition.
tuition.
Yeah.
Well,
I believe in free tuition.
100%.
I believe there's a whole bunch of people that have come through our doors that you guys know me, I'm always pushing education.
Exactly.
And that they'll say, I don't want to go to school because I don't want to pay the money back.
Exactly.
But you'd rather sit there and be ignorant.
And be broke.
And broke.
And running around chasing after government assistance and help.
Yeah.
The whole entire, like, I guess to summarize my ending is I just want people to be more self-empowered. Why do you want to rely on something that could get cut back at any second? And a lot of these people have children. So you also want your children to go through the same things that you're struggling with.
Yeah.
Once you show that, hey, I want self-improvement, guess what your kids are also going to do? When you set that example of self-improvement, they're also going to self-improve as soon as you start by that guiding foundation.
So what's the first step? How do you do that?
I think the first step is waking up, looking yourself in the mirror, and being like, listen.
For real.
I
Because
don't
let me
think
tell
that's
you.
like a-
No,
you
but
know
that's
what?
it is.
You know what?
It's
It
a
does
mental
kind of
thing.
work, Gabe, because when I was on welfare, I just looked, I have to tell you, I'd rather go to school and crack some books and owe them money than be on government assistance like that. That
A
is
lot of
some
people
work.
don't think
You've
that
got to
way.
run because they're so
But the
used to
thing is,
agency hopping and
getting
running around and, oh my God, my rent's due. Okay, I'm going to get kicked out. Let me go over to this agency and see if they can pay my rent. Oh my God, I can't. Oh, it's so stressful. But you get used to doing it because that's what you have to do. As soon as, and I've done it too. I've had assistance and rental assistance, and I've had my utilities paid by government. But let me tell you, when I went back to school and I was sitting in my chair, okay.
Like you're able to breathe.
I
That's
was
my
like,
whole entire thing. It's like they have to think about it because I think a lot of people are not able to see the full picture. Once again, because they are uneducated about what the whole entire picture looks like. Because their mother might have been agency hopping, so now they know how to agency hop. They know how to get all this government assistance.
Yeah.
They know how to be lazy. They know how to stay at home and once again struggle for everything when you don't have to be struggling.
Yeah, when you
wake up, you look at your condition
Yep,
and you're like,
you kind of
listen,
do,
move
Gabe.
on.
You kind of look at. That's what I did. I was like, this is some bullshit here.
Exactly.
I cannot keep doing this. This is stressful. what am I doing? I'm not. I want something that will sustain me. This is. Then they keep changing the rules and the paperwork
Exactly.
and then you have to
You could
prove
get-
everything and you have to get
Exactly.
documentation for everything and just running around. It's like it's horrible.
What-
It is a
yeah.
merry-go-round that I did. I looked at myself and I was like, "This is you. No, you get
Just
off
look
of
at
this mess.
Yeah.
Get off of it."
So,
I'd rather go to the store now and shell out whatever money I have to buy my food
Instead
because
of
I don't
relying.
have to worry about
Just think about.
food. I don't
just-
rely
so,
on
yeah.
it.
So when you work with homeless people, you just say, "Look in the mirror."
I wouldn't say look at the
That's why you're.
No,
I just,
I would
no,
say,
I just
I
don't
would
see
say,
that as like a
no,
logical.
the thing is that I would say, look at your situation.
Yeah,
Look where you-
reevaluate.
look where you are,
Evaluate.
and then
Yeah.
I'd ask them, what do you want to do with yourself? Where did you, what
Yeah.
future did you picture when you were a child? Okay, that's what you wanted. Now let's have a more realistic view at this picture. You're not able
Yeah.
to become an artist, okay?
I just see a lot of them just saying "fuck you."
Okay, and that's
And that's
totally
fine.
fine.
And that's
fine,
what me
and
and
that's
Joy are
fine.
saying. Okay,
If
but
you don't
then,
want the
but
help,
you
you
can
don't have to
tell
get
me.
it.
You can say,
Yeah.
okay, fuck you. But then my thing is, no, actually, in a little while it'll be fuck you.
Exactly.
And I don't have
and
to
I won't
lift
be
a
the
finger
ones,
to do it.
yeah.
I won't. You'll be doing it to yourself. So
Exactly.
you're just fucking yourself.
That's like, I'm not gonna
And you
sit
can
here
do
and
that.
say,
I don't care.
I'm not gonna sit here and say, look in the mirror. Obviously, I'm gonna be like, look at your
You
situation.
have to reevaluate
look at
your
what
life.
you're doing.
And
Look
yeah.
at where your life is going. This
Yeah.
is where your life could be. Here are the resources to get your life there. And then you can take the first step. And if you need guidance in the first step, come back here and ask me for guidance. But I'm not going to hold your hand. Because at the end of the day, I want you to be able to go out into the world and hold your own hand and guide yourself through all of these resources.
Yeah.
If you need to sit here and learn how to do that, I'm willing to teach you.
Yeah.
But the first step is you wanting to do that.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna sit here and give you resources for housing and sit here and call them for you. I'm not doing that.
We're
Here's the
not.
resources. I'm not the one that's homeless. You are.
You'll have
You're.
to.
I'm not the one looking for
Yeah.
rental assistance. I'm not the one who's about to get kicked out of where you are. So take some responsibility for that. However you got there, and then you sit down and you call
And
those
you
places.
appreciate things more. Like when
Yeah.
I bought when my mom bought me a laptop, I didn't really care about it because it was a present that was handed to me. Like I didn't really care. Then the second I bought my own laptop, you cannot touch this laptop. Keep the water away from my laptop. You value things more when you do it yourself
Yeah.
versus why do you think they keep getting
And you
Okay,
learn
so
more.
also-
And you learn
So
more.
you just said that we were just talking about free tuition, handing out free tuition,
But the thing is though, that's the, okay.
or handing out $1,000 a
can't-
month.
you
Do you
can't
value
say-
that?
You can't.
I-
Obviously, you're
I
not gonna.
do.
I would value
You
it.
do,
No,
but
the thing
does
is though
everybody?
is that
That's why I'm saying
an
them
edu-
18-year-olds.
No, the thing is though is that even with an education, yes, you're getting handed free tuition, but that degree isn't going to be handed to you. You have to work for that degree. Whether the tuition is free or not, at the end of the day, you're the one going to class, you're the one studying for it, and there is still value behind it because you're putting that added value in, whether it's free or not. And even with the work program, if it was under my regulations, you would still have to work for it. You would still have to do something for it, so there would still be an added value to it.
Yeah, I mean, with the education thing is you can't sustain a nation without people being educated. You can't. I mean, you just can't. And the more people that you have educated, the more they contribute to society on a whole, especially in the sciences.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
the
especially
sciences.
you cannot sustain an economy without scientific innovation.
Exactly.
And if you're illiterate and you don't know what science is, let alone like, okay, so you can pick up your phone.
I mean,
and
honestly,
if you can take advantage of it, but to be able to contribute to the creation of scientific technology, you have to have an education to do that.
That also
bottom
makes
line.
me like kind of think about college. You know, we're talking about like free tuition in college, but going back to elementary school and middle school and helping those. There's like tons and tons of schools that don't have any funding. I think that is also
Exactly.
maybe
Well,
even more important than free tuition,
I
which I
think-
think maybe should get more money.
Like,
yeah.
So like public high schools and stuff like that having.
Elementary schools having books, having pencils
They
for
have-
kids.
Well,
They
yeah.
some of these schools here have
Guys,
STEM
I
programs.
really have to pee.
Have STEM
Oh, sorry.
programs and And so my oldest son works with, because he's a software engineer, so he works with a lot of these kids in these programs, but he told me they're really doing a lot of good work. So I think more STEM programs put in more schools, especially more urban schools,
Exactly.
is a good idea.
Exactly. I think
But
so
here's a
too.
good idea. It's 5:00. Thanks for joining us. Leave comments in the comment section about what you guys think.
You guys might not agree with us.
might
and
not
that's
agree with
totally
us, and that's fine too.
That's really fine.
Yeah, we like to hear that as well.
Exactly.
Thanks,
Comment, like, and subscribe.
Oh, comment, like, and subscribe, and see you next week. Bye.
Polar.